Well, folks, I can't believe it. It finally happened. It's finally here. And no, I'm not talking about the return of tennis after the longest break we've ever seen in pro tennis, at least in my lifetime, a 6-month break from pro tennis. No, I'm talking about an even longer break. I'm talking about they finally sped up the courts at the U.S. Open. Pat Cash said this is the fastest he's seen these courts in 20 years. But take a listen to the excellent in-house commentary staff from ATP Tennis TV talking about the CPI court pace index measurements that they've been taking so far at the new and improved Cincinnati U.S. Open doubleheader.
So they are getting quicker each day. Grandstand court 41.1 the opening day. She dropped a bit, 40.5 day two, but 42.6 was the reading yesterday, so it's what you'd expect, isn't it? Just gets a little bit quicker, a little bit slicker with each day's play.
Yeah, the way the players are moving on it, that top surface just gets worn down a bit.
It gives us an average over the 3 days for this court of 41.3.
Put this on the screen. 2017 CPI hardcourt court stats. One of the most special years for the Roger Federer fans because they sped up the court so much at the Australian Open. A big part of why Roger was able to beat Rafa in that epic final. He beat him even easier at the even faster Shanghai courts, Shanghai 2017. And again, these courts were at the beginning of the tournament. We haven't even started the U.S. Open. We're at the Cincinnati version of the U.S. Open, the warm-up to the U.S. Open. The courts are going to speed up the more you see guys like Djokovic and Tennis Sandgren slide their sneakers across the court as they slide into shots. This court's probably going to end up being faster than Shanghai from 2017. I mean, it's a special day. They sped up the courts. I just wish Roger could be there to see it. Got to break out the good scotch because they finally, after 20 freaking years, they finally sped these courts up and made the U.S. Open play fast again. But hey, if you don't believe me, ask Riley Opelka how his serve is working out for him.
Number 6 seed this week against Opelka. Remember, we saw... Oh, my words, what a way to finish. I hope he's all right.
In honor of the Italian who was down, Matteo Berrettini, we'll add a little sparkling Italian water to this excellent scotch. Also in honor of Andy Murray as well. Why not? Djokovic, always the perfectionist. He had the one-up-it. Why not, instead of hitting the person, disarm them. Take the weapon out of their hands.
Oh, hit the racket.
So who does this favor? How does it change? Is Djokovic going to be upset now because the courts are, as he said himself, between 20 and 30% faster than last year? Well, we've seen really no one except Stan Wawrinka able to break through the defense of Novak Djokovic at the U.S. Open, especially when he's playing his best, not really counting the win last year, talking about that finals win Wawrinka had over Djokovic. 2009, we saw Del Potro, but in 2009, those courts were playing more like they are today. So we definitely have a more likelihood of seeing an upset. And one guy who I really like, the big servers, I'll give them a chance, but I still think the defense of Djokovic and his own offensive ability, Djokovic knows how to play a fast court as well. Federer would definitely beat him here. I have to say that. Easy to say when he's not here, but I got to put that out there. The one guy I really like right now is Steph Tsitsipas because he has the power of those big guys. I mean, what is he, about 6'4"? So he can knock down big serves like the big men, but he's also going to be able to play the kind of defense to absorb the best of Djokovic. And, funny enough, Steph Tsitsipas gave us the best highlight of today's tennis.
Can I suspend the match?
The freaking umbrella is spinning above his head in a tornado, and Steph Tsitsipas just sitting there reflecting on the world, the weather, the wind, and then the umpire has to wake him up and say,
Let's go, Stefanos. Ladies and gentlemen, please suspend it.
Let's go, Stefanos. Get your shit together. Meanwhile, John Isner was running for his life. Steph was thinking about how maybe he could fly a drone into the cyclone of the tornado, and John Isner was thinking, I have a child. Take a listen to right before the microphones cut out. You could hear the umpire saying, oh, it was a wild and wacky day at the U.S. Open, the Cincinnati Masters, whatever the heck it is. Today on Coffee Break Tennis, we will look at an interesting match where I see a path to defeating Djokovic for some players. But with that said, I got to put it out there. Djokovic looks pretty good, especially considering they had him in a freaking headlock in his first match. But the neck issues are gone, and he's feeling pretty good as he easily dispatched Tennis the Menace Sandgren today. And of course, we didn't do a draw show. To be honest with you, I didn't believe there would really be tennis. I said, you know what? I'm not going to make a video until I see a couple days of this, and I actually believe it's for real. But we will go through the rest of the draw. The quarterfinals are here. We will preview the quarterfinals for you and talk about some of the stuff that we've missed, since this is our first show of the Cincinnati in New York City Masters. Don't worry, though. Just to make you feel like you're at home in Cincinnati, we've got the Western and Southern Open official ball right here to comfort you. And also, no sound. Andy Murray, he hit this incredible highlight shot, and later in his press conference, he said, you know, I hit an amazing shot, and not a peep. No clapping, no applause, no cheering, nothing. Well, I have a solution. I think, I hope, maybe it'll all come together. We'll talk about that and nothing more on today's edition of Coffee Break Tennis. So let's take a look at the draw and talk about how a lot of these guys are really picking up right where they left off from. So first one comes to mind, obvious case here, Milos Raonic. He looked really good until he ran into Djokovic at the Australian Open. And, you know, it's funny, Fonini was calling him a fat guy, and hasn't Fonini gained some weight in the past week? It can happen to any of us, the best of us. But Fabio Fonini said it looks like Raonic ate an elephant. That was like, I don't know, a few weeks ago. It looks like Raonic went into lockdown mode and lost all of that weight. He looks great. He looks maybe even better than he did at the Australian Open back in January. So he's picking up right where he left off. I would give him, you know, this court is faster, especially with the balls not fluffing up or whatever was going on in Australia. This court, I would give Raonic a better chance to beat Djokovic if they were to play best of 5 at the U.S. Open or here at Cinci. I would, let's see, in fact, looking at that. Raonic is in the bottom half of the draw with Krajinovic, Opelka, Tsitsipas. Djokovic is on top. He's going to face Jan-Lennard Struff. Struff, again, getting better and better, picking up where he left off. Medvedev looks really good. RBA looks good. And a lot of these guys did really well in Miami last year. I was lucky enough to be there. I got to see Federer play a couple matches up close. And that court is made by the same people who are now making the U.S. Open courts. So we got a little sneak peek. And what do you know? RBA, Roberto Bautista Agut, he was doing very well. Remember, he beat Djokovic at Miami last year on a very similar court to this one. Let me see. Tsitsipas ran into El Chapo, the tennis player and rapper, as you all know. I remember that match. I was there. That was a crazy match last year in Miami. But Chapo's only good for, you know, a big win, and then he doesn't play that well. Tsitsipas can replicate it over and over again. I like Tsitsipas's chances better for sure. Chapo, I'm sure he loves the fast court, but, you know, you really can't rely on him to consistently hit the shots that he needs to take advantage of the super fast court. Tsitsipas, I trust much more. So I thought Tsitsipas was going to go far in that Miami tournament if he would have found a way past El Chapo. Obviously, Roger Federer won that tournament. He liked those courts. I'm sure he would freaking love this U.S. Open. It'd probably be his favorite of his entire career, especially because he would win it. What a shame. Krajinovic, I remember last year at Miami. I think in the third round, he met Roger Federer, and I remember in that match being really nervous because it felt like Krajinovic was trebling Federer for a little bit before Federer pulled away. Felt like Krajinovic maybe had a shot at that. He has a flatter shot. He likes these faster courts. So things are a lot different because of this. This is not what anyone expected. You know, we expected another super slow, high-bouncing, gritty U.S. Open hard court where no one would really be able to hit through Djokovic, except maybe Dominic Thiem or Tsitsipas, and they just had to play the best ever. We saw how close Dominic Thiem was able to get at the Australian Open. I would give him, actually, maybe I wouldn't give him a better chance here. We you know, it's hard to base Dominic Thiem if you didn't see his match. He got blown away by Krajinovic. Krajinovic only dropped 2 points on his first serve. His second serve win percentage was 100%. You don't see that very frequently. Another good thing about this, I remember last year at Wimbledon, Federer was kind of complaining a little bit about how it's really hard to get an ace. You know, you can find the corners of the service box with a flat serve, and you really got to, I think he said mash it. I can't remember the word he said, but something along those lines. You really got to crush that ball hard to get an ace out of that court. It's kind of a slow court. He was kind of surprised. Well, this court is no problem like that at all. If you can hit spots, it's so easy to hit an ace, and it's so easy to hit winners from all over the court. If you find the angles, if you hit the open court, I mean, you really are going to wear out your opponent. They have to sprint so hard to catch up with some of these shots. It's amazing. Let's go through the draw really quick, and then we'll talk about a couple more things and get out of here. We're going to go daily until Friday. Then I'll take a couple days off, Saturday, Sunday, like the players are doing. And then we're going to attempt to go daily for 14 days through the entire U.S. Open. So fueled by our Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/coffeebreaktennis. So go over there and check it out if you want to help us on our mission to cover the sport of tennis in the most fun and exciting way possible. That's our mission here at Coffee Break Tennis. All right, let's put this draw on the screen. Djokovic actually kind of had like a tough match with Berankis, and we'll talk about that later. This guy's like 5'6", the little Lithuanian Ricardas Berankis. We'll talk about that in a little bit because there was some interesting takeaways from that match, mainly dealing with how this court plays. And then he ran into Sandgren. Tough for Sandgren because who did Sandgren beat first? He had a tiebreak in the second over Lorenzo Sonego, and then he had a really tough match with FAA. FAA should be playing on this surface really well. This should have been great for him because, let's face it, at his best, he's kind of like Roger Federer. Like he moves really well, except he's like 6'4", so he's even bigger and stronger. And his forehand is kind of like with the Federer technique. It's more of a Eastern grip. Takes it very early and can hit a lot of winners on that. He also can shank it just like Roger Federer. But the biggest problem I saw, and then we'll go to more current in the draw, but looking at this part of the draw, Felix Auger should have been able to get through Sandgren. He threw in double faults at bad times, just like last year at Miami. FAA did well on that fast court in Miami, but then he throws in double faults at the worst times. Against John Isner, I believe he lost in, quarterfinal or semifinal last year. Felix Auger should have beat Sandgren, throws in double faults and forehand shanks at the worst times possible, but to me, an even bigger thing that he needs to work on is hitting spots with his serve. On his first serve, I constantly saw FAA, and keep in mind, these guys hit like almost 100 winners and over 100 unforced errors in that match, Sandgren and Felix Auger all day. Only 2 aces in over 3 hours of play from FAA. And why is that? Because he's not hitting the corners. Take a look at this. This is Riley Opelka using the court and using the angles. If you can hit the tee, and if you can hit the out wide, and if you can add some spin, if you can add some slice out wide on the deuce court or some kick out wide on the ad court, ad side serving, you can really spread that thing out. I think they said that's like 20 feet to cover. It's amazing, especially if you're standing back, if you're not taking the ball early on the serve return. When I watched Felix Auger, I saw a lot of, let's say he goes for the backhand out wide flat, but really it's like in between at the body, talking ad court. I'm trying to serve out wide, but it's like in the middle of at the body and out wide, which is basically just lined up perfectly to rip a backhand. I mean, I saw him hitting serves that just Sandgren could just take a full cut on the forehand. First serves, no location whatsoever. I think because Felix hits it so big, he'll get away with it against lesser players. But as Djokovic said when they asked him what he thought before he went into his match with a Sandgren, he said Sandgren's a big match player. This guy, he goes deep at majors, plays big matches. He almost beat Federer and made it to the semis at the Australian Open back in January. Speaking of picking up where you left off, Tennis Sandgren looked pretty good, and I give him a shot to have a decent little run at the U.S. Open. Anyways, let's move on to what's going on ahead tomorrow. Djokovic and Jan-Lennard Struff. Struffy Struff, he looks really good here. He's had, he's been getting better and better the last couple years, having better results. He's 30 years old now. He's starting to become a young veteran of the sport, and he's really figuring things out. So I give him a shot at Djokovic, but Djokovic looks really good. Djokovic can play the fast courts, of course. Don't take it that it's a super fast court means Djokovic is doomed. If he was going to play Federer, expect to see something more like what we saw back in November at the World Tour Finals when Federer beat him, kind of stunned him on a faster court. This court is even faster than that freaking court. So just imagine that. But it's not Federer. It's Struffy Struff. He's been hitting spots. He's been dictating play with the big forehand. I even saw him rip a couple backhands up the line, which is typically not a shot that he ever hits. So good signs there. Medvedev looks very good. You may think since Medvedev, take a look at this graphic. This is where Rafa stands back last year on hard courts. Well, look where Medvedev stands to return serve, even further back. So he's playing exactly like it's last year. But this court, compared to 2017 Cincinnati, it's literally, what is it? It's like 33% faster. It's a lot faster than at least that year's Cincinnati. I don't know where it was last year, but it's safe to say it's a lot faster. Medvedev, I don't worry about so much, though, because his flat, awkward shots that he hits, his forehand and backhand both, they're so flat and low, extra effective on these faster, slipperier, slicker courts because the ball just goes through the court so fast. And if you already have a flat shot that gets through the court faster than anyone else on any court, it's really going to pay off for you. So I like Medvedev. I think he will come through Roberto Bautista Agut in 3 sets, but I think that's a potential epic battle, which really isn't a great way to prepare for Novak Djokovic the next day. We are playing every single day with no rest from here on out, I do believe. Riley Opelka against Steph Tsitsipas. I like Tsitsipas. He just came through against John Isner 7-6, 7-6. Opelka is younger and maybe a little stronger, hits the ball a little bigger, but Opelka doesn't have the second serve variety of John Isner and is not going to be able to dig out of danger as effectively. I would say we shall see. Opelka's so young, though, the book isn't written on him yet, so maybe this will be a breakthrough for him to get through Tsitsipas. And then on the bottom, we have Krajinovic, who's super hot, taking out Dominic Thiem in a match where clearly Dominic Thiem didn't know how to play. Just to give you a little evidence of that, go back and watch it if you didn't see it. Just watch the last game. It seems that Dominic realizes he gets kind of desperate at the end and says, I totally played this court wrong. This court is, you would think, these guys have been there practicing. How do they not know the courts are fast? And apparently they're not, practicing on the court that they played their matches on right before all the time. They're on different courts. Djokovic said he was totally caught off guard when he played Barrancas. He couldn't believe how fast the courts were. Of all the practicing he did, he was only on that grandstand court one time. Other courts, he did the rest of his practicing on other courts, surprisingly. So he was caught off guard. Dominic Thiem must have been caught off guard. The last game of the match, Dominic Thiem serves and volleys 5 points in a row and loses almost all of them. It's almost like he said, this is a fast court and I'm playing it wrong, so since it's fast, I have to do the cliche thing. What do you do on a fast court? You serve and volley, and if you don't hit great serves, if you don't hit great shots to approach, you don't do very well at the net. So anyways, I thought that was interesting. Krajinovic hitting a flat ball, just playing very well. I think Krajinovic won the Adria Tour. It's kind of like an albatross, but I think he beat Djokovic there. So Krajinovic, obviously, a little confidence if you beat someone you look up to in Djokovic, number 1 in the world, having an incredible year. I think Djokovic is now 20-0. That's his record for this year. He will play Milos Raonic, who looks really good. I think Milos Raonic could win here. I think he could win the U.S. Open. I think he could beat Novak Djokovic. When I first looked at this draw, before I even saw how fast these courts were, just going through the draw, I favored some guys like Raonic. I thought Kevin Anderson would probably get through Kyle Edmund. I liked Andy Murray because I thought all these guys who are kind of veterans of the sport and have come back from injuries before, a 6-month layoff to them is less foreign territory for some of these young guys who have just been, slowly riding the train up the last couple of years, riding the night train like Chapo the last couple of years. So I favored them, and it's no surprise that Milos Raonic has done very well, especially after the confidence he would have built up saying to himself after the Australian Open run, losing to Djokovic, still putting in a pretty good fight, pretty good effort in that loss to Djokovic. He had to have told himself, wow, I can still play at this very high level. I can still do this. So I like these guys that have that veteran experience. I would have loved to see Roger here if his knee would have been okay, because when you've taken long breaks in the past and then come back and had success, it's going to be a lot easier. So I like Raonic to come through Krajinovic because of that, but I'll give Krajinovic a shot just because he's really hot right now. I like Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas, I'd say I give him even more X factor because, I was making fun of Dominic Thiem saying he panicked when he realized it's a fast court, so he started rushing the net kind of desperately. Didn't work out. But Tsitsipas is the guy who really knows how to play the net, knows when he's hit the right shot, when to go to the net, and has the big enough, flat enough. Don't forget, Tsitsipas got a pretty flat forehand, kind of Federer-like too. Flat enough to push Djokovic back and actually be able to hurt him, drop shot him, come to the net, do all kinds of creative stuff. I think it's going to be more interesting tennis for sure this U.S. Open. I'm much more excited. Even though Rafa and Roger aren't there, way more excited than I ever thought I would be. Okay, a couple things, and we'll get out of here. Number one, I got this piece here. Players turn to sweet life as U.S. Open converts Arthur Ashe Stadium into player spaces. This is from Forbes.com. And basically, just to make it short and sweet, I've noticed you see some great shots. There's no clapping, although sometimes we see coaches and like friends who are there for other players as coaches or physios. I don't know how, but there's little crowds forming at some of these matches. There should be more than that. More of that, I mean. Because you can spread these people out, and just hearing a little bit of clapping and cheering for an amazing shot, it makes it more fun. It adds to the energy. That was the one thing, I'm happy tennis is here, but that was the one thing kind of surprised me. The first few amazing shots I saw, and no clapping at all, I thought like, wow. You really take the crowd for granted. You don't realize how important that is and how much that adds to the excitement of a major, especially until it is totally gone. So this, to me, is the best way to do it. Quote, some players, this is from Danny Zausner, the USTA Chief Operating Officer at the Tennis Center. Some players were trying to figure out how to find their isolation rooms and bring RVs to the US Open, but once they saw the suites, they said these are so much better. Again, these box suites that you sell for top dollar, usually like big corporate sponsors and stuff like that, they're very nice, obviously. They're high-end luxury. Well, since there's no fans allowed, the top 32 seeds at the tournament, men and women, I guess there's 64 suites, they all get a super sweet suite. The USTA, here you go, has converted 67 of the 80 suites by removing sponsor activation and clearing furniture. The remainder of the suites either had too much permanent furniture, blah, 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 blah. Now they have Lavazza coffee machines, physio tables, so you can get a massage in your suite. And, of course, you get a great view of the match. I think, let's read this real quick. Players get assigned a suite based on ranking. You could say, Matt, what if all the seeds disappear? Like Dominic Thiem and Sasha Zverev disappeared. The 32 seeds on both men's and women's sides will earn a suite, and as players get eliminated, that suite is then awarded to the next highest-ranked player in the pecking order. So these suites are going to be full of everyone who's still in the tournament, and I think it would be great. It would be awesome if you could have players hanging out in those suites watching, the night match, the big match of the day to add to the energy. I think that would be super awesome. Okay, one last thing, and then we'll get out of here. Take a look at some of this. This is with the net clearance from little Lithuanian Ricardas Berankis. He was hitting his forehand 52 centimeters on average above the net compared to Djokovic's 61. So it was obviously a flatter ball. Also, take a look at the rally hit points. Berankis was inside the baseline 25% of the time. Djokovic 20. But here's where a really telling stat. Djokovic was getting pushed beyond 2 meters behind the baseline 37% of the time. This is like halfway into the match. I don't know how these numbers held up by the end. And 43% of the time, he was within 2 meters behind the baseline, whereas Berankis was 69% of the time. Only 6%, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% of the time was Berankis behind the baseline more than 2 meters. And he gave Djokovic a lot of trouble because he hit that forehand so flat and he took it so early. Keep in mind, this is the smallest guy on tour. He kind of has no choice. He kind of has to play that way. But this is one of the smallest guys on tour, and he really gave Djokovic some problems. I know Djokovic was dealing with the neck injury, but he was giving Djokovic some trouble, and that just goes to show you, if you can hit angles, take the ball early, and flatten out your shot, you can beat anyone on a court this day. It just comes down to who's actually trying to hit that kind of shot, who's trying to flatten it out and take it early, who's got the footwork to set it up. There's another graphic. Take a look at this. David Goffin in the first set, after his serve goes in, unable to take the first ball inside the baseline, and he loses. In the second set, when he wins, he's able to take the ball. See how much more frequently he's able to take the ball inside the baseline. He wins. If you are committed to that game plan, as we know Roger Federer is all the time, especially as he's gotten older now, he doesn't want to work too much on the defensive side, so he's always committed to that game plan. If you choose to play that way and you make the shots, you don't hit too many unforced errors. We've also seen a lot of that so far this week. You can beat anybody. These fast courts are prone to upsets, and they're prone to more creative ways to play the wonderful sport that we know and we love. That's the sound of the music, which means it's time to go. Like I said, we're going to be going daily until Friday. We'll take a couple days off, Saturday, Sunday, and then hopefully, if I can pull it off, it'll be a feat. 14 days straight of Coffee Break Tennis, U.S. Open coverage. I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure you watch the matches tomorrow while I spill my expensive scotch on me. And we will catch you tomorrow night after all of the matches are done. See ya!